Budget meeting. Tonight is Thursday, May 18th, and
Recording
it
in
is
progress.
7 o'clock. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Adams.
Here.
Amboise. Online.
Here.
Thank you. Bailey.
He's here.
Representative Bailey. We're taking the roll.
Here.
Thank you. Burrell.
Here.
Brennan.
Here.
Bright.
Here.
Happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Casper.
Here.
Surf.
Together now. What?
Representative Surf? Nope. Chase.
Here.
Kopp. Crockett Hubbard. Dean Shinbrot. Eben.
Here. Here.
Oh, Dean Shinbrot's here? Thank
Yes.
you, thank you. 9, 10. Frickman? Fritchie? Gardner?
Did you hear that Evans here?
Yes, I
Yes.
did. Thank you. Gothier? Gibbs?
Here.
Thank you. Hainline? Hainline? Gustafson? I know Hainline's here.
Hainline is on. Yep.
Yep. Hanscom?
Here.
Ivy? Caden?
Here.
Cadden. Massett?
Here.
McElroy?
Here.
Merritt?
Here.
Norman?
Here.
Aubry? Online?
No.
Nope. Perry? Powers K?
She'll be here late.
Okay. Powers S?
Here.
Pacino?
Here.
Scott? Cimarero?
Here.
That's 21. Thomas? V.C. Williams?
Here.
Watson?
Here.
Weaver? Wells?
Here.
Whitney? And Rusk, 25.
So I did get notice that Representative Gardner was not going to be here, and Representative Thomas was not going to be here
And
tonight,
Crockett Hubbard.
and Representative Crockett Hubbard. No, Representative Obrey just came on.
Oh, Representative Aubry's here, that's 26.
Happy birthday to Representative Bright. Thank you so much for spending the night with us. Quite a dedicated public servant. Okay. Mr. Chair, if you want to come on up. Well, he's coming up. I just wanted to take a quick second. I know we're not, this isn't in the budget or in the agenda, but I wanted to say Gemma Moran passed away this week. She was a longtime resident of Groton, made a huge impact in our community and southeastern Connecticut. So I just wanted to say that we're thinking about her tonight. First item on our agenda tonight is item 1035, Public Works, on page 107.
Okay. I have, by a unanimous vote of our committee, was Gary Wells, myself, and Gibbs. And I'd like to put forth a number for Public Works. I believe this is their general annual operating funds. And the number is $6,534,223.
Second.
That's Powers.
The number was passed by the chair, seconded by Representative Powers. The number is $6,534,223. Did you have anything else in your notes from your minutes?
This is just the overview. I can ask for Greg Hanover to give a short overview. This is increases in fuel contractors. There's a lift, I believe, is out of date. And if there's anything you want to add to this,
Sure. Greg Hanover, Director of Public Works. The budget this year is up about 6.5% over last year. It's slightly under $400,000. It is a level service budget. There are no new programs proposed, no changes in personnel. We currently have 43 FTEs, and we are proposing that the transfer station fees remain the same as they are this year. In personnel, we have about $145,000 increase, primarily due to the general contractual wage increases, and also in increases in our overtime and the way we calculate overtime. I know this past year, we got lucky with the snow, but we use a 5-year average, so there was a slight increase in the snow overtime as well. As Representative Merritt said, utilities and fuel, we're not immune to the price increases in heating oil. I mean, Public Works does pay for the heating oil and utilities for all town buildings with the exception of schools. So all the electricity for streetlights, water, sewer, gas, that's all increased, so that's about a $70,000 increase. Repairs and general maintenance are also up just due to inflationary increases for the price of parts and whatnot, about $20,000. And professional technical services are up about $50,000. That's primarily due to some repairs that we need to make to our closed landfill at Flanders Road. We have a gas collection system and a flare. We had a new consultant come in this year and identified a number of issues we were having with the flare and the collection system, so we have $50,000 to take care of those items. And then the equipment, we do have some needed pieces of equipment. We've got some roll-off containers and lids at the transfer station that are way beyond their useful life that need to be replaced. And we also have a vehicle lift up our highway garage that is out of date, and it has been recommended by our testing company that be replaced. And also materials and supplies are up about $50,000. The cost of salt for the roads has gone up to about $100 a ton for next year, which is an increase from this past year. So that's it. All total, those increases, come out to a little under $400,000. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Representative Eben.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This is a point of information. The vote was not unanimous. I wasn't at the meeting, so I was unable to make that meeting of Public Works. So if the minutes could be so corrected to say it was not a consensus, since he didn't actually.
If you're not at the meeting, you weren't part of that quorum, so we'll make sure that the minutes reflect that you were absent for the meeting or not in attendance for the meeting.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Representative Eben, did you have anything else? Okay. Seeing none. Oh, Representative Aubry.
There we go.
I gave her a link.
I'm just wondering, since we didn't use very much salt last year, why don't we have an adjustment down?
Well, we have this full stockpile for next year, but, we base it on a 5-year average. So, we can't predict what it's going to be next year. We may have, 3 or 4 blizzards next year. We don't know. If the trend continues the way it did last year, then we certainly will see in the future the salt's, quantities going down. But, the price of the salt itself went up as well.
We're going to enlarge the amount? Yeah, I know everything's going up, but what I'm saying is you have a supply of salt that was not used.
But that would only last about 2 storms. If we get, 4 or 5 really good storms, we're going to have to buy, we have to buy more. Our salt shed only holds enough for a few storms.
All right, so how much did we spend last year? It's probably just a small amount, but to me, it doesn't make sense. If I buy something and put it in the cupboard, I don't use it, I don't have to replace it.
But we could run out of it, we will run out of it quickly, after a couple storms, and I can't predict what we're gonna have for weather next year.
I
So I
understand
have to
that.
budget for, what could potentially happen. And, we will need it.
I understand that, and I want to preface this. I want to preface this by saying I think you do an excellent job. But my question is, again, we didn't have to buy it last year. We have it salt. We had money allocated so that you could buy more salt. Now you're saying you need more money to buy more salt. It just doesn't make sense. It's just a small item, but I understand that everything goes up, and we have personnel costs and everything else, but there are some things that seem like it would be reasonable to say, at this point, I have monies from last year. I don't know what you used last year's budget on, but it should be somewhere.
Well, we did have savings from last year, and that was spent on heating oil and electricity costs that we didn't account for, which went up because nobody knew that those prices were going to go up so high. So we got lucky last year that the savings we had for the salt that we didn't buy last year, was used to offset the increase in oil and electricity costs.
Clear that money that's spent goes back to the general fund.
Yeah, the money that's not spent goes back to the general fund.
Did we put anything back into general fund?
Yeah, we did. I just don't know the amount offhand. Public Works has been pretty consistent in putting money back.
Down line,
All right,
everybody should be muted.
I think there's little abuses that are going on with the whole situation. Granted, I think you do a wonderful job, and I'm pleased with that, but I think sometimes things are done and it's just accepted and it doesn't make sense.
So I assume like 5 years ago must have been a really low year. Is that why it's?
Well, it was a big bad year.
Huh?
It was a bad year. We had more.
But 5 years ago we had been low. Did we lose her?
No.
Go up.
Did you guys want to comment on that, or?
Was there a question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear a question.
She just was concerned about that number.
Yes.
Representative Aubry, are you comfortable with where you're at? Are you done? Representative Eben.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a little bit about the salt as well. I was just curious, it looks like it's gone up about $70,000. Is that primarily for the cost of the salt? Because it's in the cost center, 10356. Is that increase for the salt that you're mentioning? Can you hear me?
Yes, he's looking
Yes,
at
I'm
his
just
budget
looking
book.
at that.
Sorry.
Overtime too, right? Overtime as well?
Yeah, the overtime went up a little bit, but,
Yeah, that does include the salt as well as, the overtime, everything that is required to, clear the roads. And again, we did not spend, I think we spent about half of what we were budgeted this past year because of the winter we have, but, we used that money to offset the increase in oil and electric.
I just want to add the importance of averaging too, is we had a year where we went 350, 400,000 over budget. It was more than the contingency, so you get a bad year, so you really do need to average it out, just in case.
And then is the post-closure maintenance, is that the stuff that you were saying that needs to be purchased for the methane leaks at the transfer station?
Correct. That's for the gas collection system and the flare system that, we're required to operate under DEP, our permit.
And just want to remind me that the amount of methane isn't commercially harvestable, is that correct?
That's correct. It goes down every year. At some point, we're going to, be able to eliminate the flare altogether because there won't be enough methane to keep it running.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, the number on the floor is 6,534,223. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, if you want to put your hands down. Representative Hainline, if you can put your hand down, please. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Then that motion passes 27-0. Next up is account 2020 sewer operating funds on page 113.
Sewer operating funds, item 2020 there's 3 present to vote on this, was Gibbs, Wells, and myself in committee. And the vote was 3 in favor and no opposed, no abstaining. And the number is $9,743,547.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Representative Brill. So the number on the floor is 9,734,547. Do you have any comments from your meeting?
This is just the regular operating funds for the wastewater treatment plant. And
Okay.
anything Director Hanover would like to add?
Director Hanover, do you have any comments with this?
Just a brief overview, maybe. Just to remind everybody, this is an enterprise fund. This is 100% paid for with the sewer user fees. This does not come out of general taxes. There are no changes to personnel proposed. We have 19 full-time employees that operate the collection system and the treatment plant for the sanitary sewer in town. Again, personnel costs are up about $100,000, primarily due to contractual wages and also for health benefits, because they pay for their own health benefits for their employees in this department. As we talked about in the Public Works 103.5, the utilities and fuel prices are up about $30,000. We also have had a large increase in the hauling fees we haul sludge from our plant to Rhode Island to be processed, and that is about a $100,000 increase. And the cost of chemicals has gone up significantly, about $100,000. They also are looking to purchase 4 new vehicles, which is $175,000. They're replacing some, 14, 15-year-old vehicles that are way beyond their useful life. And then most of the increase is due to the reserve fund, the CIPs, which will be taken up later, but it's up about $1 million over last year for needed capital improvements, which we'll go over a little later on tonight. So that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Representative Eben.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Yeah, it looks like it's up about $2 million from my reading, where for our estimate for 2023 is $7.6 million. now we're, this request is at 9,700,000, so that's 2 million. And it looks like the user fees are only covering about 7 million. The remaining 2.2 million is coming out of the fund balance. So I am really kind of curious, because that hasn't been the case, why this huge jump in fund balance? Where's that 2 million? What's going on with the 2 million jump from where we are this year in 2023 to next year? It didn't seem like it came out in your description. Maybe I missed it.
Well, again, there is a fund balance at the end of each year. I mean, whatever funds aren't spent or kept in this account, and that builds up over time. But we have some needed projects that the Water Pollution Control Authority felt were needed to get done at this time. So they voted to, use a portion of the fund balance we have available, to offset the large increase in the budget this year.
But can you just tell me, because the CIPs aren't in this budget, am I missing something?
Well, the CIPs are
They're usually not
they're
folded
the
into an
actual
operating budget.
CIP.
So what's causing that 2 million? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Can you say whatever it was you said again?
Yeah, no, in the actual CIP document, which, we haven't got to yet, we get to later tonight, but at the end, there's some projects that are strictly related to the Water Pollution Control Authority, that they total up about, I think it's a little over $2.5 million, which is, about $1 million more than we spent last year.
So those, just for a point of clarification here, Representative Eben, those CIPs are included in this overall budget?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. That's what I was wondering. So the CIPs are in this budget
Yeah,
then?
the CIPs are funded through the sewer user fees.
Thank
And
you so much.
for another point of clarification, this fund balance is the fund balance for this, the pollution abatement facility, not for the general fund balance, correct?
Correct.
So all of this is by sewer user fees. It's too early in the night for me not to be able to use words. Representative Bailey.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. CIPs, so what line item would that be under?
CIP 10 B and C, correct?
Well, that's the description, but if you go to the actual 2020 budget, it's the 5460, shown as reserve fund / equipment. It says 2.55 million.
If you look at page 116, line item 5460, is that correct?
Okay. All right. Hey, thank you very much. Is there something like that's really major as far as a project or something that stands out? It'd just be easier just if we could at least note something if it's really
if you'd like, I
significant.
could briefly go
It
through
should
this.
probably be noted as far as, I'm not telling you what to do it,
These are
but
CIPs.
it would just make it easier for us to see.
For clarification, the CIPs are on page 249 and page 250. And those are the ones that we're going to be discussing later tonight.
Yes, but see, those are being funded by the state.
No, they're being funded by the sewer user fees. I'm correct?
Oh, is that correct?
Okay.
I wasn't
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, one of them has a partial
I
state
thought it
grant.
said Say again?
One of them does have a partial state grant, so, but the rest are all, sewer user fees.
Okay, hey, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay, so the number on the floor is 9,743,547. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, if you can lower your hands. If you can lower your hands, please. Ooh. If you can mute yourself if you're chewing, please, that'd be great. All those opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion passes 27-0. Next item is.
Excuse me,
oh.
I'm sorry, Jill.
Sorry.
I did not vote in favor, I voted against it.
I'm sorry, I did not get that. So it's 26-1-0.
I think we should think about taking down our sewer district taxes.
Okay, thank
Thank
you. The next item is item 2030, Solid Waste Fund, on page 119.
Item 2030, Solid Waste Fund. We met, and the committee was Gibbs, Wells, and myself, and the vote was 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. The number is $1,598,058. $1,598,058. And this,
Second.
this relates to the tipping fee, and I'll let Greg give us a little overview on that.
Sure. This is basically a pass-through account for all the haulers in town. Groton's a member of SCARA, which we bring all our waste up to the Lisbon Waste to Energy Plant. So when the hauler brings it up there, SCARA bills us, and then we in turn bill the haulers. So it's essentially a pass-through account. It doesn't impact general taxes.
Do you have a question? Oh, it's from over there. They're practicing. It's a little entertainment for us tonight. Exactly.
It's on Thursdays.
Are there any questions? Seeing none. All those in favor of $1,598,058, please say aye or raise your hand. Okay, if you can lower your hand, please. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? That number passes 27-0. Next up is item 6040, Fleet Reserve Fund, found on page 123.
Okay. Item 6040, Fleet Reserve. When we held a meeting, was 3 people present, was Gibbs, Wells, myself. And we voted in favor, 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. We voted on a number of $1,680,641.
Is that the number you moved? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Representative Casper. Go ahead.
And this was the general fleet of the town. And Greg, if you want to give an overview of the breakdown of it?
Sure. There is about a $360,000 increase from last year in this. This is our fleet account. This pays for all the new vehicles, vehicle fuel, and the vehicle maintenance, the parts. Obviously, parts prices have gone up from just due to inflation, and vehicle fuel for gas and diesel, all has gone up accordingly. As far as the new vehicles, we're proposing 8 new vehicles this year. Those vehicles total $807,500. There are 4 police patrol vehicles proposed. These are replacing 2017 model year vehicles, so they're getting to be about 7 years old. And these vehicles are approaching about 150,000 miles, which is a lot for a police car. so they definitely need to be replaced. The fifth vehicle is our 5-yard plow truck. This is our standard plow truck that we use. It's a 2008 model. It's got severe rust on the chassis. It's also one of the last ones we have with a steel body, so that is all rusted out, due to the salt. So all our other trucks have stainless steel bodies, so we'd be getting a new one with a stainless steel body. We're also looking at replacing a 28-passenger bus for Parks and Recreation. This vehicle is about $75,000, but we will be submitting and getting a grant, hopefully for 80% of that, a federal grant. The next vehicle is a Ford F-350 pickup truck with a plow to replace a 12-year-old pickup that is where the chassis is again rusted out, and it's due for replacement. And then the last vehicle is a new vehicle, if you will. It's a mid-sized tractor with a hydraulic boom arm and a flail mower to do our roadside mowing. Currently we are using these small multi-purpose trackless machines, and they're constantly breaking down, and they really can't get to where we need to behind the guardrails and really push the brush back for sight lines and to make the town look a little nicer. So we're looking at the small tractor that you may have seen. The state uses these a lot on their roads. It's a small tractor, the cab, and has a big arm on it, and you can really get the brush pushed back. And so we're looking at that, and we can also, in the future, get an attachment and mow our landfills, which we do about 4 or 5 times a year. And right now we're using these smaller machines, which just are taking a beating. Yeah, and the fact that the town council banned us from using Roundup along roadsides for vegetation control, for a couple of years we were pretty good. It kind of kept things at bay, but once we stopped using that, things have really started taking over, and the weeds and the brush are really, kind of closing in the roads, if you will, especially these rural roads. So we really do need to get out there and do some more of this roadside maintenance, and this vehicle will really help us do that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Representative Pacino.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. What is the disposition of the old vehicles?
Usually we'll try to trade those in. We can probably get more money than we will if we auction them off. If the company or whoever we're buying them from won't take them in, then we do auction them off through our purchasing department.
And is that reflected in the budget? Whatever monies we get from that? Like, what vehicles did we sell last year? Is that reflected?
I have my fleet manager here. He could probably answer that better than I can. Bob, do you want to come up and?
Good evening. So the question was, how do we dispose of the vehicles, or?
How do we account for the sale of the vehicles in the budget?
So there's a line, and I'm not sure if it's in the 103.5 account or the 604 account, but it's sale of fixed assets, and we account for that in that line.
Outstanding.
The majority of the vehicles go to a public surplus auction. Police vehicles, because when they're done, they're kind of almost like a half vehicle by the time you take the cage and everything out of there. So those usually get traded in and actually will become taxi cabs, usually is what generally happens with those.
Well, they kind of are taxi cabs, aren't they?
Mr. Charette, could you just please introduce yourself for everybody?
I'm sorry, what?
Could you please introduce yourself for everybody?
I'm sorry, I'm Bob Charette. I'm the Fleet and Facility Supervisor for Public Works.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Any other questions? Before we get to everyone online, I want to just make sure everybody sees on page 127, there's a list of all of the vehicles that are in the town. The department that they're in, the year that they were, the year of the vehicle, the make, the model, the fiscal, is that fiscal year in service?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, these are the vehicles that we have proposed for replacement.
Okay.
We actually have more than this in town.
Okay. Okay. But just so you guys have a a clear understanding of what we have. Representative Aubry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it breaks up every once in a while for me. Did you say a fire truck?
5 cubic yard dump truck, snowplow,
Oh, no.
not a fire truck.
Okay, thank you. And you're saying
And we missed the end of that
this
sentence.
list on 127 is what you want or what we have?
No, those are just, that's just scheduled replacement. We're looking at the ones at the very bottom of that. There's 8 vehicles at the bottom of that list on 127. That's what we're looking at this year. This is just to give everybody an overview of all the vehicles that are going to become due at some point.
Okay, thank you very much.
Representative Eben.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I had a few questions. First, I was just noting that the sale of fixed assets, was, I guess it was 2,000 last year, so I don't know how many cars that might have been, but that seems lower than even one car, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, last year, I believe we traded in, because we do get more value when we trade in the vehicles versus just outright sale.
The other thing is that interest income is added in that so that the financing plan actually exceeds the costs, the total of the cost center, and I'm just curious why that is. Usually the cost center and the financing plan are the same number.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if the finance director could maybe answer that.
All right, well, yeah, I would suggest they should be the same number. I don't see why we should finance something in excess of what is going to be spent.
Finance director's coming up.
You wanna sit down? Yeah. So do you get the question?
So the question was, why
is
is
that
the
not
financing
equal to that?
plan not
Higher.
equal to that?
Yes.
The interest income might have been determined after the payments from other funds was calculated, which would have been part of the vehicles and the maintenance and operating contribution that would have been from general fund into fleet. So that might be the reason that it's higher, the financing plan is higher than the expenses.
I have another question. I'm curious about the vehicle that you mentioned for like mowing the sides of roads. Is that the Kubota at $210,000?
That's correct.
And are you telling me, because it doesn't seem like it's a replacement, that's a new vehicle that's in addition to every other vehicle that the town owns?
Correct. The town does not have this vehicle now. It's a new
Is that
vehicle.
correct?
Yes, it's a new vehicle.
And it's to fill a perceived problem with mowing the sides of the roads? I mean, what is used now? Lawnmowers?
We use small, very small, multi-purpose, I wouldn't even call them tractors. They're like mowers type things we use. They also can do plowing, but they really can't reach areas we need to get at. And they're getting old and, breaking down a lot. So we're looking at this to really push, the brush and stuff back. It's not a perceived problem, it is a problem.
I'd like to put another number on the floor. $1,455,641.
Is there a second? Second. Who was my second?
And
Representative Norman seconded? Okay, do you want to speak to your motion?
Sure. And what that does is it takes off that Kubota, because I feel like the cost of vehicles this year is, you know, a good, almost twice what it was last year. We went from about 400,000 in 2022 to over 800,000 this year. And I think probably we can, we've been working without this $210,000 tractor, and for some reason I feel like there probably is a machine on hand that can handle this. And so that's part of the decrease, and the other part is the $15,000 for the interest income.
Okay.
The interest income is just an estimate, though.
Yeah, I just don't feel that we should be, you know, paying for, you know, in excess of a cost, basically.
All right, Representative Aubry.
Yes. If I remember correctly, which would be strange if I did, there was quite a bit of conversation about what could be used on the sides of the road in order to keep the grass down. Am I remembering this, or did I dream it? And so consequently, I think we have more of a problem than we had in the past, which would probably make it so that, as much as I don't wish to keep the number, it probably has to be, because am I correct with that, John?
Correct. In the past, we were able to make do because of Roundup with our lesser equipment. However, at the time, the town council, of course you were on there at the time, made the decision to no longer allow Roundup. The understanding was it'll probably be okay for a couple of years, and then we'll need more advanced equipment as it really starts growing back in, because it does last for a few years. This machine is very much needed. And every year I see the fleet get cut because it's an easy cut. But if you look at that list of outstanding vehicles, we really have to get to the point where we're funding what we need.
I'd like to be able to agree with taking that out, but I can't, because I think this is something that the council forced on us by a decision that was made. I did not disagree with it. I don't think any of us want Roundup, but they didn't come up with an alternate way, and so I think we really have more of a problem on the sides of the roads than we had before. So I would stay with the original number.
Representative Powers.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Just for clarification, Director Hanover, the areas that we're talking about are very difficult areas to get into, correct? And would you consider this a safety item as well as an acquisition that we need in order to keep the town beautified and the roads clear of debris and everything else? Because I've worked with some of this equipment, and I know the expenses of it are very high, and that they're not going to go down. They're going to only go up. But as far as I've worked in my career in landscaping and property management, this is a requirement that we need in order to be safe with the people that we're working with in our town. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we really need, you know, the machines we have now can't get behind guardrails, can't push stuff back for sight lines, for safety issues when people are pulling out of intersections. You know, we really have to push this brush back, and so this tractor has an arm, a hydraulic arm that can really get back there, and the tractor itself is like half the cost. It's the arm and the flail mower that are very expensive as well.
And the other question I have is that with the antiquated equipment that we have now, it's only getting more difficult, and to find repair costs are expensive, and I see that they've gone up as well. Finding the replacement parts for the equipment that we have is also difficult. Is that correct?
It's getting more difficult. I mean, but the machines that we're using now, these smaller machines, they're probably in the shop more than they're out in the road working.
Thank you.
Representative V.C. Williams.
Yes, thank you. So from my understanding, we can actually decide when we lower the amount, how exactly it's spent. Is that correct? What it's spent on?
No, you only set the overall number, and then staff decides where it's spent.
So if the council was to decide on this lower number, what items, where would you use the cost deductions? What would you take out of the budget? Which things do you feel like would be?
There's
easiest
really
to remove?
no good answer to that, because you really have to do the police cars. As a matter of fact, we had people hit in total.
I'm
at
sorry?
least- And we can't take out the police cars, those have to be done. And then the dump truck's on its last legs, and we need this to, if you want the roads kept up. I mean, we're at the point where we just really need this equipment. It's just not something I can answer, honestly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Representative Merritt.
If I might mention, if you look at the fleet fund, the vehicle that this will be replacing for work, it's replacing the work. I don't know if that vehicle will be taken offline. I would, because it was purchased in 2008, and they're still trying to use it. This doesn't make sense to me, and I won't be voting on the second number.
Any other questions? I would say, I stated this in the committee meeting, this is the easiest place to always cut, but when you look at the list on page 127, there's a lot of vehicles there that will need to be replaced. So if we're not doing it this year, we're pushing it down the road to the next year. So as much as I want to save money, as much as the next person, I don't think I wouldn't advise this being the place to do it.
Point of order, you can only ask questions, you're not allowed to speak on a motion.
Thank you. The number on the floor is $1,455,641. All those in favor of this number? Representative Gibb? Nope. Representative Eben? Anyone else in favor? Okay, if you can put your hand down. All those opposed? If you can put your hands down. Anyone abstaining? Did you get Representative Aubry? Okay.
She didn't vote yet.
Representative Aubry, are you voting on this number? Okay, without her, it's 1 to 25. Oh, Representative Aubry, did you want to vote for or against the cut number?
Against.
Okay.
Thank you.
So 1 to 26 to 0. The next, so we are, Representative Dean Shinbrot. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, the number on the floor is $1,680,641. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, if you can lower your hands. Tracy, put it up again. Yeah. All those opposed? Okay, any abstentions? So the original number passes 26 to 1 to 0. Next up is CIP 1A on page 211.
Madam Moderator, can we have someone, whoever is on the line, can I hear the feedback, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
There's feedback on the line. If someone can mute themselves, please.
Okay. Everybody's muted now. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chair.
We have CIP 1A is Town Pavement Management Program. And the committee took a vote, was Wells, Gibbs, and myself was 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. The number is $1 million.
Second, Chase.
The number of $1 million was moved by the chair, seconded by Representative Chase. Director Hanover, do you want to speak to this?
Sure. This is our paving program. The last few years, we've been putting all our paving in the CIP. We've been successful in getting a lot of roads paved. For this coming year, we're primarily looking at the Noack area of town. There's a number of roads there that they're PCI, which is the Pavement Condition Index, which again is a number from 0 to 100, 100 being perfect. These roads are in the 20s and 30s, as you can see on, in the CIP description. And Marsh Road is a collector road, and that one was actually being used as the only road in and out of the village of Noack when they were replacing the Mosier Avenue Bridge. So that road really took a beating last year. So we're looking at doing all of these roads in Noack that are listed, which is Brookview Court, Cove, Church, Marsh, Pearl Street, the end of it from Chesbro to the cul-de-sac, Potter Court, and Smith Street. We're also looking at doing the southern portion of Flanders Road. We did the north portion, which was from I-95 to 184 a couple years ago, but now we want to finish off that road by doing from Route 1 to I-95, which would be by contractor doing a mill and pave. Now you may notice that PCI is a little higher, but this is one of our major collector roads in town, and we want to address it before it gets really bad. And that $450,000 all of a sudden balloons up to well over $1 million to get that road repaired. So it's better to take care of that now. So all these roads total come up to $1 million.
Any questions? Representative Pacino.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I've noticed that some of the towns, some of the roads in town, when they get repaved, the lines that looked really weird before they got done get put right back in the oddball spots. Is somebody looking at that to see if they can manage traffic a little bit better with newer lines placed differently?
Are these town roads you're referring to, or state roads, maybe?
Both.
Yeah, because I have no control over what the state does, obviously. But
well, that's fine. But
the town roads, we just do the center line and the shoulder line. We've been, going to a slightly narrower travel lane down to from 12 to 11 feet, which studies have shown that does slow traffic down slightly, and also gives you a little bit bigger of a shoulder for bike lanes and stuff. So we did that on Bunnington Road as well as Flanders. Those are the only roads that we've actually done line striping.
I was thinking more of the stop lines at intersections. Let them be closer to the intersection or further from the intersection.
Yeah, we typically put them back
right where they're at.
Where they were.
Okay.
If there's some reason that we have to move it, we'll take a look at it. I mean, there's a range that they can be.
Okay.
How close to
so
the
you don't
road.
have somebody who, for this project, looking at that specifically to make sure they're where they're supposed to be in the first place, and then use this opportunity to fix it if it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, we can take that under advisement.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Bailey.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. I just kind of noticed that roads when they're paved, not all of them, but just for an example would be like Pleasant Valley Road North over here across from the subbase. When the paving was done, it kind of, half of it's done and then they do the other half and there's a rut right in the center of the road going down like most of the road. And it's not so bad at first, but after it wears down, it seems to prematurely wear down, and it's very kind of easy to get kind of caught into a little bit. I'm not, like I said, it's just a mentioning or just letting you know, that's all. Okay. And it could be kind of like, it's kind of difficult, that's all.
I know that road is coming up in the next year or two on our list.
Okay, well, maybe it might be like technique or something, the way it's...
Yeah, that's just a bad joint at the center line.
All right, I appreciate it if you look in that, that's all.
Okay, Representative Norman.
Just really quick, you said that road might be coming up in the next year. Is there a place that we can go to look and see sort of the schedule or the rating of all the different roads in town?
I do have the rating. We're working on putting like a 5-year plan together. We've been doing it like every couple of years, but I'm trying to look at, projecting further out. So, I can get that information out there.
Yeah, that would be great.
As far as the PCI
Yep.
for each road, yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, seeing no other questions, the number on the floor is $1 million. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, if you can put your hands down. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Then that number passes 27-0. Next up is CIP 1B, bridge repair on page 212.
I have CIP 1B, bridge repair, and this is for the repairs to the bridge on Meridian Street and Thomas Road. And the number voted on by committee of Gibbs, Wells, and Merritt, 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstained, was $210,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Representative Sean Powers. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
I had my hand up to ask a question.
I'm sorry, it did not show here. If you can put your hands down. If you can put your hands down. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Then that passes 27-0. I'm sorry, I do try to wait. Representative Eben, I do try to wait, and I waited, and I looked directly at it, and your hand wasn't up, so.
Yeah, if you could just wait a little longer, like that really you didn't wait because I put
I will do my best.
it up right then. I did put it up. You can check the video feed or whatever.
All right, next up is CIP 1E, road construction, Main Street, Noank, on page 213.
Okay, road reconstruction, Main Street of Noank, CIP 1E. This is Gibbs, Merritt, and Wells voted in favor. 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. This is $300,000. I believe this is just for the engineering.
Is there a second on 300,000? Thank you, Representative.
Watson, second.
Thank you, Representative Watson. So it is 300,000 to prepare a design for the road reconstruction on Main Street in Noank. Are there any questions? Representative Eben.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Yeah, I do. It seems like we spent $75,000 last year to kind of prepare a plan for this, and this year we're spending $300,000 to hire another consultant to get another plan. So I'm just kind of curious about, can't we just have one cost for planning and designing? And I don't understand why we have kind of these annual costs, which are quite a bit of money. I don't know how much everyone makes, but this is, this is a substantial amount to get another plan, which I thought we did last year.
Yeah, $75,000 was approved last year to hire a consultant to do public outreach and conceptual plans. We're in the process of hiring that engineer right now. And then once we get that done this summer, we'll have some meetings this fall. Then we're going to go right into the design, which is what the funds we're requesting tonight, to do detailed design plans, permitting, and then to get an accurate cost estimate. To see if, depending on what the cost is, this could potentially be a bond referendum.
Why do we need to have a consultant have outreach? I don't quite understand. You're repairing a road. What kind of outreach do we
No,
need?
we're doing more than repair. We're putting in sidewalks, streetscapes, and this, and it's in, a neighborhood and commercial and, areas. So, we definitely want to have the public involved. It's more than just repaving the road.
I would just say 75,000 seems pretty high to have the public involved. I mean, don't we have staff that can have a meeting?
We're developing conceptual plans as well. It's not just having a meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, the number on the floor is $300,000. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, if you can put your hands down. Anyone opposed? She was up for yes. Representative Obrey, if you can put your hand down. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Then that passes. I'm sorry, any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes 27-0. Next up, CIP.
There is a delay between us and Zoom.
Everyone raised their hand though. I knew that. CIP 3B, replacement sidewalk construction on page 214.
CIP 3B is this replacement sidewalk construction. And it also has 2 new sidewalks in there. And it was voted on by Wells, Gibbs, and Merritt. 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. The number is $230,000.
No, it's 75.
$75,000.
Oh, CIP 3C, okay. Yeah, $75,000. I'm one ahead of myself.
You still second it? Chase.
If that was a motion, Watson seconds.
Thank you. The number was put on the floor for $75,000 for sidewalks. It was seconded by Representative Chase and Representative Watson. Representative Eben.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm all for sidewalks. I think this is great. I was kind of curious what sidewalks you're going to be repairing.
Well, we're looking at some sidewalks along Route 12. Last year we did Route 1 through downtown Groton. We hired a contractor. He came in and ground down all the lifted panels to the edges, to eliminate trip hazards. It was very cost effective to do that. We also replaced 25 handicap ramps and about 4,000 feet of sidewalk along Route 1. So we'll be continuing up Route 12 to the sub-base, and then we're also looking at a couple neighborhoods to do that have some really old sidewalks. And then I know we also have Library Street from High Street up to Elm Street by the church in downtown Mystic. That sidewalk is in really bad shape. And there's one on Route 1 from Allen Street down to Elm Street that has some severe trip hazards on it.
My question is on the financing plan. Many communities use a payment in lieu of for developers when they can't put in a sidewalk, they'll take payment, or if the sidewalk doesn't make sense in a certain development. And I've asked this before of the town manager. I was told that Groton had this, so I'd kind of like to know, if we have it, why aren't we applying it to the CIP? And if we don't have it, why don't we get one of these fee and lieu programs?
I don't remember the details on that. I'm sorry, I don't remember offhand. How, we don't get money, this is maintenance though, and it wouldn't be money, well, I guess if you had some saved up, we don't. D? Let me get D up here. We don't have a fund though set up for that, so I don't know. What happens, like, so that'd be through planning though for the sidewalks, right?
It's like a benefit assessment or something.
Yeah. Does that go in open space?
I think it would be like for new sidewalks.
Yeah, I just wondering where do the funds get deposited if somebody doesn't put a sidewalk in, do you know? Yeah, the money, if they don't put a sidewalk in, they do a payment in lieu of, do you know where it gets deposited?
We can't hear
Okay.
this.
Yeah, we're gonna have to check on that. We can't say right offhand.
Thank you. I couldn't really hear this woman. I'm sorry, I don't even know who you are. If you could check on that, I'm going to just suggest that we get a payment in lieu of sidewalk for developers, because many developers do not put sidewalks in. And then that could be an account where this could come out of, or where we could target sidewalks, which are really high, very important or critical for connectivity. It's not always where a development goes in. And so please, every year I ask this, and I have never gotten kind of a straight answer on this. Thank you. If you could come back to it.
Representative Aubry. Representative Aubry?
I'm sorry. Did you mention doing some repair down by the sub base?
Yeah, along Route 12 up to the subbase.
Because most of that's been replaced.
Well,
when
we
they
have
did their project down there.
well, we have a bike lane, but there's still some sidewalks that, we would have to do. I'm just generalizing, it'd be along Route 12 up to the subbase, wherever there's concrete sidewalks.
I don't think there are concrete in that area. They're all asphalt.
There are some.
Oh. Okay. Thank you for answering. I appreciate it. I'll go walk it.
Representative Pacino. Okay. All right. Representative Aubry, did you have another question? Okay. Any other questions? Representative Aubry? Okay. Okay. Seeing no other questions, the number on the floor is $75,000 for sidewalks. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, if you could lower your hands, please. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, that motion passes 27-0. Next item on the agenda is CIP 3C, which is infill sidewalk construction, found on page 215.
Committee met on CIP 3C. It was Wells, Gibbs, and Merritt. Vote was 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. The number is $230,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. The number on the floor is $230,000 for infill sidewalk construction. The motion was made by the chair, seconded by Representative Sean Powers. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions. The number on the floor is 230,000. Representative Dean Shinbrut, did you have a question?
No, I was voting.
Okay, sorry. The number on the floor is $230,000. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, if you can put your hands down, please. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Then that number passes, 27 to 0. Next up is CIP 6A, Human Services Building, found on page 232.
Okay, CIP 6A in committee was Gibbs, Wells, and Merritt. And the vote was unanimous, 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. The number presented and approved was $180,000.
Second, Adams.
Thank you.
This is for windows that need to be replaced.
Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Representative Adams, in the amount of $180,000 for window replacement at Human Services Building. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
You have a question? Go ahead.
Is there any plan on moving human services to the community center?
No. No.
Flat no?
No, it's a flat no. We've looked at that, and that's a no.
Oh, okay.
They'll be in that building for quite a while.
That's the original library. People don't know that.
Well, it was a school at one time. It was a school originally.
Originally, yes, but it was the first library we had.
Okay, seeing no other questions, the number on the floor is $180,000. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. If you can lower your hands. Did you push it up a second again? Okay. If you could lower your hands, please. All those opposed? And anyone abstaining? So that passes 27 to 0. Next up is CIP 6C, which is the Town Hall Complex on page 233. That number was zeroed out by the Town Council. Was that recommended by you, by the
Yep.
Town Manager?
That was the town hall.
Yes. Yeah, it was, we're not ready to spend anything on that. It's not needed right now while we figure out what's going to happen with the building.
Okay. So there's no vote. So we will move on to CIP 6D, Groton Public Library on 234.
CIP 6D was approved by committee that met, was Gibbs, Wells, and Merit, 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. This is for $70,000 for repairs to the roof, and the bathrooms need to be rehabilitated.
Motion made by the chair, seconded by Representative Adams, in the amount of $70,000 for renovating plumbing and roof repairs at the Groton Public Library. Any questions? Seeing none, the number we're voting on is $70,000. All those in favor, please say aye. Raise your
Aye.
hand. If you could lower your hands, please. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Representative Wells, how were you voting? I'm sorry. Representative Wells, I'm not sure how you were voting.
I'm voting in favor.
Thank you. Representative Amboise?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. That number passes 2700. CIP 6I is Spicer House Boathouse. That is also a 0 number, so we will be moving on to CIP 10B on page 249.
CIP 10B, voted in committee, Gibbs, Wells, and Merritt. 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstained. $250 million? No.
$2 million.
$2,050,000.
$2,050,000.
Yep.
$2,050,000. And that, 50,000, yes. Too many zeros. This is upgrades that haven't been done since 1970, and other overviews that I'd refer to Director Hanover.
Director Hanover, do you want to speak to this number?
Sure. These are the CIPs that
Oh,
we're.
I'm sorry, 1 second. May I have a second for this number? Second. Thank you, Representative Burrell.
These are the CIPs that we were discussing back at the sewer operating account 2020. The first is for pump stations, just over $2 million. There's 3 projects here. One is to completely upgrade the Mumford Cove pump station, which is one of our major pump stations in town, with all new pumps, controllers, and other equipment. We did appropriate $1 million last year, but when we went to had the engineer come and look at it, there was a lot more work that needed to be done, so we need additional funds. And one of the big items is we can't just replace one pump at a time as we thought we might. We're going to have to actually bypass the whole station, which is an expensive proposition. The second project is funds to complete a project we started at the Gravel Street Pump Station in downtown Mystic. And then the last one is $600,000 for resiliency upgrades to a bunch of our coastal pump stations, so that to prevent flooding. And this is the one I was referring to earlier, that we have a federal grant through the Connecticut Department of Emergency Management, Homeland Security for up to a 90% reimbursement. We'll be applying for that. So those 3 projects together is the $2,050,000.
Director Hanover, for clarification, this is money from the sewer user fees?
Oh, yes, correct. This is all, as we discussed before, it's all paid for out of the sewer user fees.
Okay. Representative Eben.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'd like to just get a little bit more detail on the resiliency project, if you could tell us what that means.
Yeah, we had a study done of about, I think it was maybe 12 or 13 pump stations that primarily are along the Mystic River and down through that area. You know, if we get floods, coastal floods or storm floods, you know, there's certain things that we want to make sure, like the electrical panels are high enough that the fuel tanks are properly secured. We've got flood doors in place, so there's some equipment that has to be relocated. This, you know, flood doors have to be put in, that type of thing, just so that we can make sure that you know, in the future with the sea level rise and the increase in storm events, that, you know, our pump stations don't go down.
Any other questions?
Can I just follow up? So that this is for pump stations then, for many pump stations throughout town?
Yeah, there's multiple pump stations.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Any other questions? The number on the floor is $2,050,000. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. Okay, if you could lower your hands, please. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? So that passes 27-0. CIP 10C. Page, I'm sorry, on page 250.
CIP 10C, as soon as I locate it here, which is in the book. I believe it's $500,000, correct, Greg?
Yeah.
It's kind of two-part. It's,
It's on page 250, if that helps you?
yeah, this was kind of interesting, actually, to me. Yes, 500,000. And I'll get that later. There's $500,000, and it met in committee was Gibbs, Wells, and Merritt. We voted in favor. 3 in favor, 0 abstain, 0 against. I move the number $500,000.
The motion was made by the chair, seconded by Representative Sean Powers, in the amount of $500,000 for treatment facility CIP 10C.
I'd like an overview from Greg, especially about the $150,000. That was of interest to me.
Okay, there's 2 projects here. The first is the standby pump or small jockey pump that it's called. Our effluent treatment pump station, which pumps the treated sewage over to the Thames River, there's 4 very large pumps, and we have a smaller pump that during low flow times, such as night time, it's a lot cheaper to run that smaller pump, so we use that during low flow times. We only have one of those, so it's advantageous to have a second one, both as a backup for redundancy should the first one go down for need repairs or something, or you can alternate and extend the life of them, alternate the use of them. So to put that in is the $350,000 with the controllers and everything else needed. The second project is $150,000 for design to change our process of treating the effluent. The final process we use right now is chlorine. We add chlorine to the sewage to kill all the microorganisms before it gets pumped over to the river. The chlorine, the price of chlorine itself is going up. It does a number of, on our pumps and piping, we're constantly getting call-ins to do repairs. And then, certainly employee safety is a concern when handling. So we're looking at going to a UV system where we actually take the chlorine system, we get rid of that, and we put in UV lamps in the right down into the effluent, and the UV lamps kill the microorganisms. The only disadvantage to the UV system, you have to replace the lamps every once in a while, and then it has a high, electrical cost. We're going to look at putting solar panels to kind of offset that, but even if we didn't do that, the cost between the UV and the chlorine is pretty comparable. That is, most treatment plants are going to a UV system now, so we're looking at doing that as well.
Any questions? Representative Casper.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. One concern I have is just relying on the UV system. It treats the effluent at the plant. And then as it goes through the pipe, there's a chance that there could be some growth. And the chlorine system takes care of that. But now there being nothing to keep microorganisms from starting to grow in the pipes.
Okay, you talking about like residual chlorine that's in the pipes that would?
Right.
I mean, a number of plants have been going to the system, and it's been, shown that it works. It's approved by DEP. There's the lamps are put in horizontally so that the flow past them is going to kill everything that's in there. So.
They're about growing
back from the. If you can grab a microphone, please. Microphone, so that people online can hear you.
Yeah, the other end of the pipe is connected to the river, and stuff can, during times when the flow is, let's say the flow is stopped, stuff can start growing back into the pipes. And, there's nothing to kill it after it leaves the plant.
Oh, you mean talk about stuff that could grow?
Grow in the pipes, right.
In the pipes itself.
Representative Powers, you don't have the floor.
Okay, I mean, that's an issue I can bring up with our engineer. I mean, we're doing the design of the system with this money, so I can bring that up. Thank you.
For clarification, this is, again, with sewer user fees, correct? This is not tax dollars?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, the number on the floor is $500,000 for the treatment facility, water pollution control. Representative Brennan, do you have a question, or are you voting yes?
Voting yes.
Okay. All of those in favor, please raise your hand. If you can lower your hands, please. Mm-hmm. Representative Wells, if you could put your hand down, please. Rachel. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Seeing none, that number passes 27-0. I'm going to recommend a break. We will come back at 8:40.
Recording stopped.
been married.
All right, we are back. Town Manager Burt had a comment about the sidewalks that he found it an answer to from a question earlier.
In terms of sidewalks being required with subdivisions.
Hold on 1 second. Can you start the
Oh,
recording?
yep, sorry.
Recording in progress.
Okay. In terms of sidewalks being required with subdivisions, it's up to the Planning and Zoning Commission if they require it or waive it. There's nothing in the regulations that allow for an in lieu of fee. The Planning and Zoning Commission would have to change that ordinance, the subdivision regulations, in order to allow for that. Though we'd have to study whether the state law, I guess about 10 years ago, the state law concerning subdivisions changed, so we'd have to double check that. But in the short term, it cannot be collected.
Okay. So we are on contributions to other funds.
What's that?
Item 1073 on page 164. Chair Sean Powers is here, as well as Finance Director Delia Morrison. Go ahead.
Let's see, 1073, contributions to other funds is found on page 164, and Director Morrison was present with us. Motion was made by Representative Chase. It was seconded by Massett to move $2,135,661. The discussion was about the individual cost centers, which changed due to the committee reviews and us figuring out the budget. And that figure will be adjusted, which is what Director Morrison will explain to us tonight here. And at the end of the entire budget session, Chairman Powers called for a vote. 4 were in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstained, which was Representative Gardner. I so move. $2,135,661.
Okay. The number moved was $2,135,661, seconded by Representative Chase. Finance Director Morrison.
I'll start it off.
Oh, okay.
All this does is move the money out of the general fund to those other funds that you've approved the amount expenditures for. So it's just where you're moving to pay for those items. So that's all it's doing. It's just reaffirming what you've already done.
Are there any questions? Seeing none. The number on the floor is $2,135,661. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, if you can lower your hands, please. Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? That number passes 26-0. We are on to item 1075, capital reserve contributions on page 193.
Category 1075, Capital Reserve, page 193. Director Morrison was with us. A motion was made by Representative Chase, seconded by Representative Massett to move $3,428,000. $428,000. Manager Mert explained the functions of the 2 different funds in order to meet the state standard requirements for transferring of money. This is an accounting type of requirement to keep track of funds. Reference page 193 for further explanation. Chairman Powers called for a vote. 4 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstaining. Representative Gardner, it passed. I so move $3,420,000.
Can you repeat that number, please?
$3,428,000.
Thank you. Okay, the number was moved by the chair, seconded by Representative Chase. Would you like to speak to this?
This is simply the expenditures for the general fund CIPs. So it's just tracking that piece of it. So what you've already made decisions on.
Are there any other questions? Or any questions? Representative Norman.
So is this number lower than what was originally proposed because certain CIPs were cut? Just to
Lower than, yeah, the
Yeah.
book was
Okay.
higher and the council made several changes.
Great.
We affirm the change.
Any questions? Seeing none? All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, if you could lower your hands, please. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Then that number passes 26 to 0 to 0. The last item on our agenda is 5010 Capital Reserve Fund, page 196.
Do you have the amount?
It's the 6 million.
That was before the cuts though, right?
Nope, it was
Okay.
after the cuts.
Okay,
This is the total.
okay.
5010. Capital Reserve Fund, page 196. Director Morrison was with us. A motion was made by Representative Chase, seconded by Representative Fritchie, to move $6,478,000. The committee discussed the reductions due to the CIP reductions, and the adjustment will further, and we discussed there would be further discussion as to how we move forward with the budget process. Chairman Powers called for a vote, 4 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention. Representative Gardner abstained. I so move $6,478,000.
The motion was made by the chair, seconded by Representative Massett. Do you want to discuss?
This simply reflects all of the CIPs, including the sewer district items.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I will take a motion. I'm sorry. Seeing none, I will take a vote for $6,478,000. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, if you could lower your hands, please. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That number passes 26 to 0 to 0. With that, we will conclude our RTM budget review.
Second.
We are adjourned.